Imagine losing a great opportunity because your name just sounds a little bit too black for some people, right? Now, this lady on the internet just came on and said that she had to quit her job because her boss told her to put the black sounding names in the completed task, right? Just put them aside and don't even look at them or give them the opportunity, even if they're qualified just like the other counterparts. Even if they're right for the job, even if they fit all the requirements, put them aside because their name just sounds a little bit black. Now, names are more than just words. Names are tied to your identity. Names are tied to your culture. Names are tied to something that you stand for, right? And black people's names are a bit different from the other people. Obviously, each culture is different and whatnot. Names are not just words. Names are identifiers. They're tied into your identity. They're tied into your culture. They're tied into what you stand for. They're tied into what you believe. They're tied into what you wish to be. It's so much more that a name is than it just being a word, right? And we see that black people have an attachment to their names. Black people have a meaning behind their names, because they did not just want to take on their colonizers' name. They did not just want to take on a name of some white person, some white ancestor somewhere who discovered something on the African continent, or who was that slave master. Let's call a spade, right? So they had their own names to disassociate from the slavery and from what happened to them. Now, it's with such names that they are being discriminated against. And it's all because the names are too black sounding, right? It's all because the names don't fit in a certain box that someone wants to fix them into, right? And because of that, so many people have lost out on great opportunities because of the discrimination they face. Because of, again, I keep saying it, because of a name, right? Imagine you apply for a job and you think, oh, I might get the job, only to find out that, hey, people around here don't hire people who have names that sound a certain way. And that's that. Let's see this clip.
Izzy, racism doesn't exist in the UK. Well, I think we can probably all eat our words on that one. But let me tell you how prevalent it is, not only in the UK, nationally, socially, locally, but also in the workplace, in hiring processes. Bear in mind, this is with this face present in the room as the hiring manager. So we were interviewing for client services roles at a company that had global customers, like genuinely global customers all over. A large part of their customer base was American. And we interviewed this guy who had a Nigerian name, first and last name, and he was absolutely excellent. Absolutely, he blew me away. He was so charming, he was so good, he was excellent. He had the experience, he interviewed so well, he was the epitome of excellence. And he left the room and was chaperoned out to reception, etc. And I caught up with my boss at the time. I had like 2 or 3 bosses kind of thing. And I said to him, wow, he was fantastic, can't wait to offer him. And he was like, no. And I was like, why? And he said, because our customers in America won't like the sound of his name. I was like, I'm not sure about that. But yeah, his name's not going to work, so he's not going to get the job. Like, we don't need to talk about it anymore. Right, okay. So I left shortly after, as you can imagine, because the only difference between me and him is that my name sounds quite English and his didn't. Like, that is the epitome of racism. And I just thought I'd share that little anecdote, if not to demotivate, but just to let you know that it's rife and I won't hear anything otherwise.
So you want to know why we black people give our kids made-up names that they can't possibly learn to spell with apostrophes in weird places? Well, all names are made up, including the English ones. And you know what? Kids in Asia, South America, Middle East, all over the world learn to spell names every day that are more complicated than Becky and Karen. But more than that, not the same people who name their kids Pilot Inspector, Gravity, Diva Thin Muffin, and whatever this is, having the caucasity to ask that question.
Now you understand why some names sound different or unique. That's because most of them are made up and most of them are literally a combination of the father's name and the mother's name, and then you have a name, because no one is running after you to name your child George the First or something like that. You can just take that name and then let it be tied to your legacy, let it be tied to your roots or something like that. Now, In 2025, recently, a girl went viral by saying how she quit her job because her manager was telling her to put the black sounding names aside, right? She came out and said, "What do you mean put them aside?" Now, mind you, she's a black woman, but she's a bit light skinned. So sometimes she's, white passing, as they call it, right? So the lady tells her, "No, just put them aside, But that's when she stood up and said, "You know what? You are discriminating against black people, right? And this is discrimination that so many people face during recruitment. This is discrimination that people face just because they have I don't want to say difficult, but that's what they call it. They have a difficult name or they have a black name, right?" There's even a white guy who came up and said because his name is different, but then he looks different. When he says his name, the recruiter says, "Oh, you know what? Once they see you on video, they'll know that you don't align with your name. That's because your name is a little black sounding, but your face is giving white." Let's watch this clip.
Black people. I had my first day today at a new job, and basically, without going too far into it, my job is to schedule care for people that need it. A lot of this job is going through applications for people who want to give care. I learned today, if it is a name that does not sound white, we are to move it to the completed tasks. We then note your application as moved due to name standards. Now, it's my first day, so I ask, what does that mean? I'm black, I'm very light-skinned, obviously. And she says, And I said, "You mean like our names? Like our names?" Because I thought it was like a brand standard, like, no, it's literally our names. So I just want you to know, and everybody else to know, this 100% happens, and I have 122 screenshots of people, their names, their phone numbers, and their email addresses, and the reason why they weren't hired directly because of their name. Then I have this. I didn't even make it 1 hour. After I got my heart rate to stop spiking, I went and found the owner like I planned and asked her directly, super calm. She didn't deny any of it. She admitted that it's, fucked up. She apologized. I told her that I don't think this is going to be a good fit because this is not something that I would be willing to participate in. I made sure to keep it like professional and not scary, like not threatening. So I have a phone call with my guy later this afternoon. I'm gonna go ahead and let him tell me how to proceed. I know that this happens. It's just that I personally have never experienced this type of training. If they have a name that sounds like this or that's jacked up, we don't do it because we have standards. Like, guess we're going on a journey, and eventually we're gonna say who it is.
It's very unfortunate that in this day and age, things like this are still happening. I mean, I say that statement all the time, but it really, truly does shock me that things like this do happen. Because imagine saying, "Oh, put Shanae, put the one with the extra nay to the side," because you're being very, very, very shady, right? Because you can do what you want to do because of how you look, right? And there's also another gentleman on the internet who changed his name and went to this company, and they gave him the job because he changed his name. But when he found out, or he set a trap for them, they fell for that trap. He decided to sue the company because they only gave him the job because it was what? White sounding. Yet he was a black person with a quote unquote, like they say, a black sounding name. Let's see it.
It's the fact that he showed up to the job interview after he changed his name just to cuss them out. See, this is my kind of vengeance. Shout out to Phil because he had posted this story about a black man who got a job interview after he changed his name on the resume from Dwight Johnson to John Jabrowski. Now he's suing them for defamation. Now the genius in question is seen here by the name of Dwight. According to CNN, he's now launching his defamation suit against a Detroit hotel. Now, in his claim, he's stating that the hotel had offered him a job interview after he changed his name on the resume. Dwight Johnson had filed this lawsuit roughly around July 3rd. Now, between January and April, Jackson, who's 27 years old, applied to multiple positions at the Shinola Hotel in downtown Detroit, including a role in reception, according to the lawsuit. And on the website, the Shinola, I hope I'm saying that correctly, is a luxury hotel. Jackson's attorney provided CNN with a copy of Jackson's resume, which details consistent employment, including previous roles as a front desk agent in the Detroit Marriott Westin book Cadillac and the David Whitney Hotel, which use the words luxury and luxurious to describe their prospective hotels. Now, after getting no response to his initial job application on April 24th, Jackson applied again, making one significant change to his application: his name. Spoiler alert, once he changed his name, he had multiple interviews in the same week. Now, Jackson's attorney stated, to be denied a job in 2024 in your hometown for the color of your skin goes beyond dollars and cents. It goes into the psyche of a person. This is where the story gets hilarious, because he did, you guys. He showed up to the job interview, and it stated here that when he got to the job interview, he had revealed his real identity and expressed his disbelief that he was not given an interview initially because his name appeared more traditionally African American. Now, shortly after Jackson underwent the interview process, he was informed that he was no longer a viable candidate for the position. Go figure. Just for reference, this study by the National Bureau of Economic Research showed that Black male and Black female names receive the fewest callbacks. Unfortunately, you guys, we live in a world where name bias is still a thing, and that's never going to change until we do things like Dwight did and call these people out. But even more so, we need to do what he did and show up to the interview and give these people a good tongue lashing. Just to be clear, I'm pretty sure the people who was involved in that interview process probably no longer have jobs.
Talk about a go figure, literally. And this just shows like the systematic discrimination that happens to so many Black people. Studies show that candidates with ethnic names are less likely to receive callbacks for interviews even when qualifications are identical. Now, this happens every single time. You could be qualified, you could have all the credentials, you could have everything that you need to secure that job, but just because you look a certain way and your name sounds a certain way, you end up not getting the opportunity, like that gentleman over there who clocked it and saw that they were actually doing this to him, because how come they didn't give him the job interview when he had his Black sounding name, but they gave it to him when he changed his name to something else, right? Let's flip the coin to the other side. When we also talk about like criminal records, because white people with similar criminal records to Black people, you'll find that the white people get the jobs, and the Black people, even with the same record and whatnot, criminal record, end up not getting the job, right? It starts with the rest, it goes down to the names, it goes down to the criminal records, right? And there's still discrimination at every single turn. We're going to watch this clip about criminal records and then we wrap it up.
I hired a pair of young white men and a pair of young Black men. And for each pair, I randomly assigned one individual in the pair a criminal record. What this means is none of the young men in the study who were posing as job applicants actually had criminal records in real life. But for the purposes of these applications, they communicated to employers that they had a felony conviction. Most job applications have a question on the application form that asks, have you ever been convicted of a felony? So the testers, when applying for these jobs, checked the box, yes, I have been convicted of a felony, and explained their conviction, that they'd spent 18 months in prison and that they'd just been released in the previous month. Then each week, the applicant pair alternated who presented himself as having the criminal record. And this is important that we were able to randomly assign the criminal record to testers, because if there was anything about the individual testers that might have made them more or less appealing from one another, we didn't want that to be confounding the effect of the criminal record. So we tried to match the testers on every dimension possible that we could think of. But if there was something that we didn't notice or that we left out, this ability to randomly assign the criminal record meant that each tester served in the criminal record condition for an equal number of cases. So looking first at the outcomes for white testers, we see that about 34% of whites with no criminal record received a callback or job offer, compared to just 17% of whites with a criminal record. So we see that a criminal record reduces employment opportunities by about 50%. In the case of Black testers, 14% of those with no criminal background received a callback or job offer, relative to just 5% of Blacks with a criminal record. When we compare the outcomes of the Black and white testers side by side, what's most striking is the direct effect of race on the outcomes of these young men. A Black applicant with no criminal background received callbacks or job offers at about half the rate of an equally qualified white applicant. But the most surprising finding was really related to Blacks with no criminal background relative to whites with a felony conviction. We find that a white applicant with a felony conviction fared just as well, if not better, relative to a Black black applicant with a clean record. This suggests that being black in America today is essentially like having a felony conviction in terms of one's chances of finding employment. The massive expansion in the criminal justice system has not affected all groups equally. Today's system of incarceration is characterized by large racial disparities. About 12% of young black men are incarcerated at any given time, compared to less than 2% of young white men. About 1 in 3 young black men will spend time in prison at some point during his lifetime, and for young black male high school dropouts, that figure is close to 60%. So incarceration is becoming an increasingly common event in the life course trajectory of young disadvantaged men.
It's very unfortunate that things like that still happen in this day and age, or things like that happen in general, because it begs the question, like, it makes you think, right? How many times have you been overlooked because of your race? How many times have you been overlooked because of your name? How many times have you been overlooked because you were just born, being black, or you were just born black? It's truly disheartening, and it can be discouraging sometimes. That's why I hope this doesn't discourage anyone. There's a popular statement in the series Scandal where Olivia's dad tells her, being black, you have to work 2 times as hard as the next person, because by you just having the qualifications doesn't mean you're going to get or secure that opportunity. You need to be 2 times better than the average white person. And it's unfortunate that it's the world that we live in. But I want to hear from you. If you've experienced this in any walk of life, you can let us know in the comment section. Let's hear from the real life stories. That is you guys that are watching me today. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Once again, welcome to Kenganda. My name is Janita. Please follow us on all our social media platforms at Kenganda Nation, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.